So, hi everyone. Welcome back to Alpha Art Gallery's Meet the Artist series. My name is Mary Grace Bianco, and I'm here with Walter Plotnick, who is an exhibiting artist for the New Brunswick Art Salon Photography Exhibition. Hi, Walter. How are you today?
Hi, Mary Grace. I'm well, thank you.
Great. So let me just jump into my questions. I combined the first couple of questions, so this will be kind of long-winded. Your Surprise Inside series in our exhibition centers around the theme of anticipation. Can you share what inspired you to explore this concept in your photography? What led you to choose cardboard as a photographic medium, and have you used other non-traditional photographic mediums as well?
Sure, be happy to discuss that. The best way for me to discuss that is to illustrate it with some images that I can share on your screen, my screen here.
Great, thank you.
So when I was a child of, I don't know, like 6 or 8 or whatever, they still make these little tiny frosted flakes or little mini cereal boxes. But when I was a kid, they made them with these perforated edges how come I can't, oh, where you could open up the side of the cereal box, pour in milk, and eat it right outside of the box. So for me, it was like this super cool thing. Like they don't make this design anymore, but I was like, what is the surprise? Like like, what's going to happen when I open the box and pour the milk in? And I was fascinated with who designed this? Who came up with this crazy idea that you eat out of a box? And so here I am years later so then what I started to do is I started to take apart the cereal boxes. I was like, how did they design this? So when I was a kid, I was taking things apart. I was taking apart like the doorknobs in my parents' house, and I was taking apart the cereal boxes. And then simultaneously, I don't know if many of your viewers will know about Cracker Jack. And in Cracker Jack boxes, there was always a prize inside. So I would get the Cracker Jack, and the prize was also always something really dopey. But as a kid, you're like, what's the surprise? What do you get inside the box? So between me disassembling boxes and eating Cracker Jack and looking for the boxes, years later, here I am disassembling boxes and using them in my artwork. Um, so this is an example of one of those pieces. This is Mr. Holland's Tunnel, where essentially I do a little bit of cut and paste and some digital process, and I print them large on 16 by 20 pieces of paper. They're editions of 5, and they are silver halide prints. So the process is between, like I said, some actual cut and paste collage and some digital process. So these are some of the things that I've been doing with the boxes that I've been collecting, and this is the Surprise Inside series. So to answer your question, I've been interested in disassembling boxes since I was a kid. And the surprise inside is when you open a box, when you disassemble a box, and what is happening on the inside of the box has always intrigued me. And I've kind of taken it to like a different level of having a story unfold, and what is the narrative and what is the story. Am I telling the story? You're interpreting the story. And there are lots of different themes and different types of um, different formats. So these are just a few samples of how this one's kind of interesting. This is a an Italian takeout box from Italy that a friend of mine brought back for me. And it reminded me of a mountain range. So that's Mount Fuji in the background. And this is called Watching Blossoms. So, anyway, uh, this is Lovebirds. Anyway, so I hoped I answered answered your question there.
Yeah, thank you. And since we're on this subject of the medium and the boxes, I'm going to skip ahead to the third question really quickly. because I've noticed that a lot of the subjects, like in the photography, they're people. So, could you describe, well, you do describe a visual correlation between boxes and the human forms within in your statement. So, how do you achieve this harmony in your compositions between the medium and the subject, and why is it important to you?
Well, uh, so in this, they all kind of evolve in kind of a hit and miss way. I first came across the photograph of the vintage photograph of the man holding the large owls, or I'm not exactly sure what kind of bird it is. And so, it's kind of like that inspired the older couple on the swing as two lovebirds, kind of like a play on words, but also a lot of elements within the box are moving or are flying out of the box or flying within the box. So when you unfold the box, there is some kind of motion or some kind of element that's active within the box. So that's the part, like, this is fun with strings attached. So again, they're the woman with the balloons and the kid with the kite, they are they are maneuvering within the box and kind of moving and jockeying for position, or uh, I don't know, just I like the element of things moving within the box is what intrigues me and what I look for. And it doesn't happen with all of the pieces, but this is a good example of that.
Yeah. Um, so you kind of just touched on this, but specifically regarding the photographic collages themselves, can you walk us through your process of selecting and combining these various images into one piece?
So I have been collecting vintage, obscure images for like over 20 years, and I look for things that just grab my eye, that I think are beautiful or have movement or have some tell a story. So it's kind of finding the right box for the right images. And uh, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but again, it's kind of like an evolution of mating images with the boxes. Um, this is a very long box, and so I was intrigued with, children on the swing sets and kind of creating a landscape within the box. And then, of course, there's motion there, the children, you know, moving and swinging within the box. So uh, sometimes the box dictates what I'm going to do with the box, and sometimes, like, I knew I was going to do a landscape with this box, and sometimes the images kind of dictate what kind of box I'm going to use.
So for the most part, do you say you like the photography that you use for the boxes? Are those vintage photographs that you've collected?
They're all vintage photographs. I have a huge collection of obscure images. Most of them are they range from snapshots to press photos, usually from the 30s and the 40s is what my range and the genre of time period that I look for.
Okay. Um, so who are some artists or movements that have influenced your style and approach to creating your artworks? How have they shaped your work?
Sure. So I am really influenced by the surrealists, from Man Ray to um, not just photo, like a lot of like John Hartman, and a lot of Russian avant-garde I'm interested in, and also Joseph Cornell, how he would do assemblages within his own boxes that he did in the basement of his house in Queens. So it's a combination of painters, photographers, sculptors, usually in the 30s and the 40s is my area of interest.
And specifically with regards to the medium and the format in which you display these images? Do you have a direct inspiration for using the cardboard and arranging the images like you do?
You know what? It's a hit and miss. Like sometimes I'll have something that I think is a dud, and then I'll come back to it a few months later and play with it some more. And these pieces usually take me 2 or 3 weeks to do. I mean, I fuss with them, and it doesn't look like a lot of work goes into them, but they do. I oftentimes um, people think I have these giant boxes laying around my house, but some of these boxes are maybe just the size of a bar of soap or a pack of chewing gum. So, sometimes I oftentimes photograph the box, enlarge the box, do the cut and paste on the enlarged box, unless it's like a 16 by 20 or 8 by 10. Unless it's a big box, then I can do the compositions on the box itself. But um, I don't know if I'm answering your question or not. So,
No, no, you are. It's very helpful. So switching gears a bit, to talk a little bit about your teaching. As I understand, you're a senior lecturer at Penn State University. How or does your teaching influence your own artistic practice or vice versa?
well, usually the students end up having answers. Well, let me back up. So every student gets the same assignment, and obviously each student interprets that assignment completely differently. So when we have our critique and I see what the students do to satisfy the assignment, often, not oftentimes, so many times, students will come up with an answer or a solution or an approach to the assignment that I may not have thought of. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like I would have never thought you about satisfying the assignment in such a way. So in those situations, I find that really interesting. That doesn't necessarily directly impact my image making, but it does give me like when I'm working with every week with people making images and interpreting assignments and satisfying assignments, it oftentimes leads to new ways to think about different problem solving. So that I find to be really interesting with my students.
Thank you. So what new themes or ideas are you interested in exploring in your future work, besides your current theme of anticipation? Or are there any upcoming projects that you're particularly excited about or already thinking about?
Well, I'm kind of knee deep in boxes right now. I mean, I'm like totally enthralled with this series. So, I keep a notebook and different sketchbook of different ideas that sometimes they just have to percolate for a while or marinate. And so I don't have anything new on the horizon other than this surprise inside series. This one I'm really tickled by because this is a little bad little child who is putting her fishbowl on top of the stove and boiling her goldfish. So, oftentimes there's a little kind of like humor in some of these pieces where you kind of have to look for it. Um, and this is an example of my homage to the Bauhaus. I really influenced by Bauhaus work. So yeah, nothing outside of this Surprise Inside series. This has been my focus for a long time,
Great, great. Thank
past
you.
couple of years.
So that was my last question. Is there anything you want to add or talk about that we haven't touched on already?
Um, no, the only thing that I would say, I'll make a comment about this box. So, I was in Italy and Amsterdam a number of years ago, and uh, my wife had to get something from the pharmacy, and I went in and like Tylenol or something like that. So when we were in the pharmacy, I noticed that all of the medicinal boxes, all had Braille on them. That by law in Europe, you have to have Braille on like the Tylenol box and all the other over-the-counter boxes, which I was completely fascinated with because I was like, well, why don't we do that here? So I started buying up these medicine boxes to bring home, and in this one you can see the braille on the box. So to me, I really liked having that as a design element. Um, this piece is titled "Aiming for a Brighter Future."
Interesting. Thank you.
So I'm looking forward to the exhibition at the Alfa Gallery, and I'm looking forward to meeting everybody, including the other artists and the gallery owners and so forth. So, and I'm always available for, if anybody has any questions and any comments. I'm always interested in feedback. So I appreciate you contacting me today. I mean, contacting me for this video today.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. And we as well can't wait to see your work at our upcoming photography exhibition, which will be from January to March 29th in 2025. So thank you again and have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks, Mary Grace. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Bye.
Bye.